This podcast is not a substitute for professional medical advice or mental health care. Please seek help from a trusted counselor or call or text 988 if you are in crisis.
Welcome to All Start, where we share our story, listen with compassion, and connect through our faith and mental health experiences. Following this story, Morgan and I will offer insights that connect faith and mental health. We invite you to practice listening and understanding during this episode, so that when someone shares their story with you in real time, you'll be ready. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's start this journey together.
My name is Hannah, and I'll start. I think my biggest fear in sharing my story is honestly embarrassment. I'm in my 30s. I've been dealing with it for a long time, and I think that can keep me from sharing because I don't want to feel like less of an adult than anybody else. But that's also kind of why it's important to me to share, because I feel like there's so much shame and then isolation that comes from that shame from not sharing. And I don't think that needs to be an added layer to these kinds of struggles. So I think that the more honest conversation that we can have about it, the more people can feel like they can be comfortable coming forward and sharing their struggles and making progress that way. I think the belief about myself is that there's a defect somewhere. That somewhere I am less than or insufficient because I see other people my age not having the same struggle. I think my personality already kind of lends itself to a lens of that, like being less than and not worthy or somehow not, good enough. Because I think I already struggle with feeling good enough and wanting to just be enough of anything, right? Like pretty enough, smart enough, fill in the blank enough. That's the thing, is I feel like we don't talk about it, and then we feel like we're the only ones. And then once we start talking about it, people actually relate, and you're like, oh, I'm not the only person on the planet that feels this way. I think the first time I remember feeling anxiety, I was around 5 years old. I was laying in bed and my mom was in my room with me, and I just sat straight up and I had this just jolt of energy. I just felt this like need to move my body, and I was scared all of a sudden and I didn't know why. And I didn't want to be in the house anymore. I had to be outside because the house started feeling really constricting, and I was like, just felt like it was closing in on me. And it had to have been like 10:30, 11 at night. And I'm just in my driveway, just like walking around in circles. And I remember looking at my mom, and she's kind of standing there like, I have no idea what's happening or how to help you. At some point, I thought that I was just kind of running my hands, like my fingers on my face. But then it became apparent that I was actually like scratching my face and I was breaking skin. So once that happened, my mom realized that she kind of stepped in and like stopped me from doing that movement. And then at some point, I just ended up in the front yard, just like laying in the grass and grasping at blades of grass and pulling them out because I had to do something with the energy. Eventually, I was able to like go inside and then go into my room and like go to sleep. But that was terrifying. And it was because I didn't know what was happening. There wasn't something that happened that made me feel scared all of a sudden. It was just out of nowhere. I started seeing a child psychologist here in Illinois. And she was great. But I think that is when I've realized that's when my first compulsion was born. One of my central struggles is like a deep phobia of vomit. It makes me very, very anxious. And I remember her telling me that peppermint can sometimes like soothe your nauseous stomach. And so then there it was, like this protective measure that I could take to help me from this thing that scares me so much. For like 15 years, I carried mints with me all the time, didn't go anywhere without them. And it had to be a specific brand and a specific flavor. It was like this magical thing in my brain that was like, this is something I can do to protect myself. And so I would just eat them compulsively because it was like, this is my protective measure that I can take to help. Now, I don't think that is what she was intending when she told me that, and I'm not blaming her for that. But that when I really look back, like that's when I think OCD actually started. So for somebody without OCD, they can have a thought, and as quickly as it enters, it can leave. It just goes on its merry way, and it doesn't stick around. For somebody with OCD, and it doesn't go away, it sticks in my brain, and then I call it the hamster wheel. It just keeps going. Then my brain comes up with all the what if scenarios along with that thought that just stuck in my brain. So for me, it's, oh my gosh, somebody that I know or came into contact with has recently had the stomach flu. How long was I in contact with them? Did I touch anything they touched? Did I breathe air that they breathed? Like, these are the things that start. And then on the hamster wheel, it's like, well, I could get sick. And then it would be really bad because I really hate throwing up. And then I'll have a terrible 2 months because anytime I've thrown up, it's really hard afterward. And then I think, well, if that happens, how am I gonna go to work? I call it the hamster wheel because I'm not going anywhere. I'm just running and running and running and running. And then it gets to the point where that thought moves into my body. It's like harder to breathe, like shallow breathing, queasy stomach, like sweaty palms, shaky, just all of those things. And that's when my OCD brain is like, hey, there's something that you could do to not feel this way. And then the compulsion is the thing that you've made up that will magically help you not feel this way. So the compulsion is something that I have convinced myself will protect me or bring control back into my hands. I remember one time I was, just obsessively washing my hands and crying because I knew what was happening, but I couldn't stop. And my husband came in and he was like, what are you doing? And I remember telling him, I'm crying. I'm like, this is the only thing I can do. This is the only kind of control I have. This is all I can do. I just remember being so desperate to have relief from these feelings that this compulsion was the only thing I could do. And in all honesty, it's like 5 minutes of relief. I remember just randomly being on the internet one night and reading an article about how OCD can manifest as phobias. And then I read about intrusive thoughts and I read about obsessions and compulsions. And I was like, that is what I have. And so then when I started seeing a therapist again, and the first day I sat with her, I said, I think I have OCD. And I was scared it was going to be like, no, you don't. Or why do you think you can diagnose yourself? And that didn't happen. We went through symptoms and she was like, yeah, I think you do have OCD. Like now we can treat it differently and we can take different steps and it be way more effective. But when you don't have the right diagnosis, you can't take treatment steps or healing steps in the right direction. And so now that I have that has made it a little bit easier. So in January of 2024, my dad died. And obviously there's grief and there's all those emotions and those things. And then there's the planning of things and, all the list of things that you need to do after somebody passes away. But yeah, that 6 to 8 month mark after I lost my dad, it just started to get really bad. If there's a big life event, it seems like sometimes that can kind of shake it off kilter. And then all of a sudden I'm kind of spiraling again. And that is when I started to consider going back on medication because I just felt like I couldn't do anything. It just felt like everything was a struggle. Going anywhere, doing anything was just, I could do it, but it took so much out of me, and I wasn't able to actually be present or enjoy those things because it was just like, let's just get through this. I was having panic attacks every time I leave the house, and getting on medication really helped. I was really resistant to it for a long time because I had been on it before and I just had an idea of what it was going to be like. But getting on it was a blessing because now I feel like the day-to-day is not just surviving. Now I am enjoying being with my daughter and my husband. And I'm going and doing things that used to be really anxiety provoking, like without any kind of issue. And that feels really good. And then also therapy can be deeper and more effective because I'm not just surviving. It's really hard to make therapeutic decisions when just getting through my day was exhausting. And so now with the help of medication, I can do that. And that makes me feel even more confident and that I can do these things and I can, overcome those thoughts, right? So I still have them. They're still there, very much there, but I can go through life not having it control me. So even like sitting down to dinner with friends was hard. Just sitting and knowing that the expectation was that I don't get up and I don't leave, and I just felt trapped, If something were to happen, it would be really weird if I just left. And then that's where that shame and that embarrassment comes in because I'm like, well, I don't want people to think I'm weird or like less adult or less capable. Or honestly, even like sitting through a church service, it felt the same way, sitting down. It was like during worship when we're all standing and it's fine and people are kind of coming in and out because it's early in the service and it's like normal. But then once everybody sat down to listen to the sermon, my anxiety would just, because those obsessive thoughts would start thinking like, well, what if I have to leave? Or what if I start feeling sick? Or what if I do get sick? And it's in the middle of the sermon and I just throw up everywhere. And then just the what if. And then I would get so worked up that the panic attack symptoms would start happening in my body. And it was almost impossible to just sit and not leave. So for a long time, I couldn't sit through a service. I couldn't enjoy dinner or lunch or breakfast with friends. I just could not. Didn't matter how good the company was. I was probably going to get anxious and it wasn't going to be enjoyable. Sometimes I got to the point where like even going to the grocery store or going to Target felt scary. Literally anything. Those are basic things. Going to the grocery store, going to Target. I love Target. It's a happy place. It became not a happy place for me for a while. It was daunting. And so I would choose to go to places that were smaller because I felt like it was like I could get out quicker. Even if I walked to the very back of that store, then it's still like the escape route is pretty quick. And so those kinds of things, those are things that I felt like I couldn't do that I can do now. And, go to concerts. I love live music. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. And for a while, that was anxiety provoking. And that was terrible because I love music, love live music. I still haven't gone to like a large venue because that is a little bit anxiety provoking, but that's the next step for me, a large indoor concert. So in therapy, I have learned connecting with my values can be something that helps me through. So deciding to go to something like a concert or a dinner, even though that might cause anxiety, but this is important to me. This is important to my husband. This is important to my friend. It's her birthday. I want to go to dinner for her. I want to show up for her, showing up for my family, showing up for my friends, doing something that I know I love. Even if anxiety is going to come along or OCD is going to come along, that has helped. So the reframe of this is a value that I hold, and even if it's hard, it's going to be worth it because then afterward I can tell myself, yeah, I did that. Even doing small things now, I've felt like, yeah, I did that. Like that was hard a year ago and I did it, Like Morgan and I were at dinner the other night and I was like, I did it. We went to the zoo yesterday. I did it. And so then I just put them in my pocket and I save them for later. So then when I am not doing as well, I have all of these examples of, okay, I didn't think I was going to be able to handle it, but I did. And I actually had fun. And I'm so thankful that I did that. Avoidance feels good for the first 2 minutes. And then after that, it sucks, yes. Because at the end of the day, I think I know I can do it. It's just going to be hard. And so that is what I realize when I'm choosing to avoid. Now I know when I'm avoiding, and I have this conversation with myself, okay, is it worth it to avoid? Sometimes I do avoid because I'm I just don't have it in me today. I can't make the therapeutic decision, but I can't always do that. I can't always say, no, I just don't have it in me. Most of the time, you have to do it even though it's hard, because it's going to feel even better afterward. So after things have been really hard, panic attacks take a lot out of you physically and mentally. I like to rest if I can, honestly, just kind of do something mindless that gives me joy, that kind of fills my cup. I like to doodle or color. I know it sounds silly, but it's just something that is calming to me and brings me joy. And so to take some time to recover and take care of myself is important. Sometimes, though, I don't have the ability to do that, right? So I'll have an anxious moment or a mini panic attack at work, and I can't go home, and I can't sit there and color, and I can't watch a TV show, right? But sometimes just going back and doing life, doing what I was supposed to do feels good, because it's oh, now I'm tired, but I'm proving to myself that I can continue on with my life, even though I just had this really hard moment. I think my encouragement is to do those hard things, because I've learned that that's the way that your brain learns. Do the thing that really scares you, that you really don't want to do. That's the thing that you need to do, because you're not actually in danger, you're just uncomfortable. Because I've gone through so many years of relying on myself and it not working. When I come to the end of myself, which is what it feels like when I'm having a really hard time mentally, I find myself more willing to surrender and just say, God, I've tried all I can try, and I know that I have to give it to you. And so I can feel myself ask more straightforward things. And that's not something that I would be able to do. It happens. God grants that to me, and I know that wasn't me. I know that because I've tried to do that on my own. I've tried to just put it out of my head or calm my body down or do those things. And so to me, that's just proof, that God is there and He is close to me and He is walking me through it. And to me, I don't believe that this is ever going to go away, but I don't believe that I'm alone. And to me, that is what faith is. Giving it to God doesn't mean it's going to go away, or that He's just going to magically take the OCD part of my brain away and completely heal it. Do I believe that He can? Absolutely. Do I believe that He can heal anything? Absolutely. But for me personally, I think that this is something that I'm going to have for the rest of my life. But my encouragement is that I don't have to do it alone, and that God walks beside me. It's still there, but I'm not alone in it. And I think that that is also a big fear, that anybody would struggle alone. And so the encouragement that I get from my faith is that I have something that's bigger than me. And when I get to the end of me, I can give it to Him. And maybe it won't fully go away, but it'll be much lighter. I had a portion of my life where I wasn't living out my faith, wasn't looking towards God. And then coming back to faith and going back to therapy and those kinds of things, I had kind of come to be at peace with the fact that this is just how my brain is. That the finish line is not that it will be non-existent. Well, truly that there is no finish line, because I think that progress is just always happening. But that progress looks like having these thoughts and then still doing all of the things that I love and that serve my family and make me have a full life. I stopped praying a long time ago for it to be gone. take this anxiety, take this OCD away. This is my story and this is my journey. And this is, to me, like testimony of God moving in my life.
Welcome to the post-story discussion of I'll Start. We are so glad that you took time to listen to Hannah's story and to reflect with us today. This is I'll Start, where mental health and faith come together in real, honest conversation. And our mission is simple. It's to break the stigma, to build community, and to remind you that wherever you are on your journey, you're not alone. I am your host, Heather Kolopek, a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm here with my co-host, Morgan Arsenault. She's a Bible scholar, she's a trusted friend, and she's one of my favorite people to process these stories with.
I feel the exact same way. Hey guys, thanks for being here. If you are new, this is the part of each episode where we pause to unpack what we've just heard. Heather brings the mental health lens, and I offer a reflection from faith, because we really believe we can thrive when those two meet.
Yes, and so looking at Hannah's story, I think that what stands out to me is that Hannah showed us what it's like to live inside of a mind that won't turn off. OCD is so much more than hand washing or cleanliness or being neat and tidy, like we stereotype it to be. It's an anxiety disorder, and it's powered by these intrusive thoughts and these compulsive behaviors because of those thoughts that can take over every corner of our life.
And I think with that, the overwhelm and the busyness and the heaviness that must come with that is she has accepted it. This is a part of who I am. And I love that she said, this is what keeps me reliant on God. But that acceptance, that being, this is what it is.
Yes. I think what you're talking about is her willingness to stop fighting what she can't control. That's where that compulsive behavior was coming in. She thought by behaving in certain ways and washing hands that she could control. And it wasn't until she accepted that she can't control those things that healing and growth started happening for her. And so that acceptance is what psychologists, therapists, mental health professionals call radical acceptance. And it's radical because it's asking us to do the hardest thing, right? Accept our pain, accept our discomfort.
We so often try to escape our pain or avoid our pain and discomfort, not accept it.
Exactly. It feels backwards, doesn't it? We think if I acknowledge the pain, then I'm giving in. But acceptance isn't giving in or giving up. It's saying, this is what's real right now. It's letting reality be the starting point instead of waiting until the conditions are perfect or we're completely healed or, we feel completely ready.
Right, because one will never be completely ready. So radical acceptance, it is meeting pain head on.
And that's what Hannah did. She didn't deny her anxiety or her OCD. She said, this is a part of my life today. And that's the radical part, facing the reality of pain and saying, this is where I start.
Yeah. That is difficult.
Yeah. And it's such an important step in that healing and growth process.
Okay, there was an emphasis there on and. Heather, where are we going with this?
So, that was intentional. It was cheesy, but intentional because the second part of that mindset is what I like to call and. It's the movement piece. It's the part that brings balance. Yes, we're in pain, okay? And when we're in pain, our brains crave this all or nothing thinking. We want to be one way or the other. I'm either okay or I'm not okay. But life rarely works like that. It gives us permission to hold two concepts at the same time.
Right. It's like Hannah saying, this is uncomfortable and I am not in danger.
Exactly. Or I'm struggling and I can ask for help. I feel anxious and I am safe. It's really freeing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's freeing to not have to choose between the two.
Exactly. And one of the easiest ways to practice this is to simply replace but with and, like I did just a minute ago. And because when we say, I'm hurting, but I'll be fine, we're canceling out the pain. However, when we say, I'm hurting and I'm learning how to care for myself, then both parts get to exist. The but somehow implies that the first part of that is non-existent or doesn't matter. And both are true.
Yes. And that's a small shift, but it is huge because it doesn't erase what's hard. Mm-hmm. It widens the equation so you can see what else is true. Mm-hmm. And I think so often we want to skip to the good part, right?
Yes.
We don't want to face the pain. We want to get to where it's good. But man, this is where the growth happens. This is where our faith and our mental health collide because God is who he is, and that is not based on our circumstances. So again, we can say, this is really difficult, and God is still good. Both are still important.
Mm-hmm. And that's really what that both and mindset is about. It's living in the tension of both pain and peace, uncertainty and hope. It's a huge part of reducing our prolonged suffering because we don't have to wait for pain to be all gone to experience relief.
Yes, that is huge. And I think so often we think our suffering or our pain has something to do with our worth or our faith. But man, troubles and struggles, they come to everyone. To struggle is to be human. And if we can develop that both and mindset and apply that to the moments of overwhelm or difficulty, that is when growth is going to happen. And that's going to happen in our mental health and our faith as well.
Right. I think whether it's, mental health or faith, this concept is true. And it's like saying, I have doubt and I still trust in God.
Yes. So I have flaws and God can still use me.
Ooh. Yikes. That one is, wow, felt that one.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yes, same. Yes, that belief definitely showed up in both of our stories in season 1. And all of this brings Psalm 34:18. It comes to mind. It says, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. And that verse holds both. It has heartbreak and closeness, and it tells us that God does not wait for our pain to be gone before showing up. He meets us right in the middle of it.
Yes, and that's so important because God isn't absent if he never heals us. Otherwise, we start to equate his presence or his love with the outcome instead of the process.
So maybe that's our reflection for today. What would it look like to practice a both and mindset in your own story this week? Maybe it's saying, I am struggling with depression right now, and God is in the middle of it. Or I am grieving, and I can still find small moments of peace.
And those statements, they don't cancel each other out. They help us to live freely.
Yes, because when we make room for both, we make room for something new. We can stop fighting ourselves and we can start to grow. And that's where this conversation lives, where faith and mental health connect. It's so both good. And.
Mm-hmm. So good. So thank you for joining us for another episode of I'll Start. If Hannah's story spoke to you, share it with someone who might need that encouragement today, because that is how we make an impact, is by sharing it with someone who needs it. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube so we can keep building connection one story at a time. And I can see this playing out in so many less serious ways in my life, right? Like in my marriage, you are driving me crazy right now, and I love you so much.
I'm thinking of parenting my sweet children. I wish you would fall asleep, and I can't stop staring at your face once you do.
Oh my gosh, that is so true, right? Or I think of as a mom, I really want to stay up late right now because this is the only time that I get to be alone, and I really need to go to sleep.